Good day and welcome to another edition of The Silence Speaks Volumes. We welcome back guests Jean, Abeda and Sherise. Today we're going to look at the cultural biases attached to people with a chronic condition or disability, as in Sherise's case, and how we get to manage this. The glass window sort of phenomenon, so to speak. Welcome back, Jen, and thank you for joining us again.
Thank you.
So, how did you manage and deal with the cultural biases attached to, she's got cancer, she's going to die? What was that journey like?
Sure. You know, when they tell you you're going to die, and fortunately, I was born to die. And I didn't have much of an issue with it. I just had an issue with, okay, let us get the worldly things in order. But with people coming in and asking me, what time did the doctor give you? And how do you feel about it?
Are you scared?
Yeah. What are your fears? And then I said, I have no fears. What are you fearing? And how would you like to get a death sentence? Because my father always told me, you can go out by the door today and you can die. So to me, that was a death sentence already, just being alive, but we don't know when. And if the doctor gives you a time and you're going to put your mind to it, that on such and such a date, I'm going to die, you are going to die. So have positive power above the negativity and say, let's move on.
Wow.
Sherise, I'm sure with the osteogenesis imperfecta, there's a lot of stigmas that gets attached. I'm reminded of conversations I had with a good friend of mine, Rahima, whose daughter also has the same condition. And there was a period before they knew that Ishra had this condition, that she was ending up at Red Cross every other week with a new fracture on Ishra. And it was a case of there's child abuse happening over here. Then you get social workers involved to do an investigation. She was telling us about stories of how families and communities were going, what did you do? You're being punished for this sort of thing. That sort of cultural, cultural biases or cultural issues are such a strong word and negative connotation, but unfortunately it's the best way to explain it. That people's biases that's getting forced down, so to speak, onto you. Have you had a lot of experience with that?
I think when I was growing up, when I was small, I think I can't speak to that. I think my friends, my parents, and my basic family can speak to that because clearly I was too young to remember the detail. But I think being older and the experiences I have now, I think the bias is something you feed. I think, and this is engaging with other disabled people or people with conditions, whether it's cancer or diabetes or whatever the case may be. I think a lot of people feed the bias, and that is why it's strong. Like we spoke about last week about the pity parties and the feeling sorry for myself. So therefore you're giving other people permission to feed that bias.
Yes.
But if you yourself look past that and show people that it's something in their head, it's something they see, and it doesn't actually exist, then you are killing the stereotype and you are killing the culture, the bias. But it's difficult when it's only a few people doing it. So I think that's a cultural shift, not only the so-called normal people need to make, but I think everybody across the board needs to make that not only mental mind shift, but sometimes a physical mind shift. Like I can help myself. I don't need other people to do it for me.
Sure.
If you know you can do it, why are you still relying on someone else to do it for you? So I think it's a cultural stigma that needs to be broken, not only from one side of the coin, but from both sides of the coin.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and it just reminded me now, what came a lot was the shame. And what did you do?
Yeah.
You sinned somewhere along the line. And as she said, you know, then you do introspection, but you have to actually pull yourself together and say, but that is your opinion, it's not my opinion. You know, and
funny enough, I had the same sort of biases. I asked the same questions. Like, why am I being punished? What did I do to deserve this? I'm a good guy. And at the time, I was a chairperson of the Thornton Islamic Society. I was involved with negotiations with the city to have a masjid built. And I still remember asking the question to my creator. It's like, that is supposed to be a form of jihad, where you're fighting for a place of worship. Why are you doing this to me? And I was coming with those very questions to myself. Abeda, from your point of view, and I think you've got a different perspective in my view, in the sense that you're a social worker working with people with terminal illnesses that covers boundaries in terms of black, white, colored, Indian. How do you find the cultural biases playing out?
It very much impacts the client's treatment process, because you find in the black culture, they will first consult the Sangoma, and until the Sangoma is given the permission, they will not see a social worker or, you know, entertain any form of counseling. In other communities, it's very much a silent issue. They don't speak about cancer. The word is never mentioned. They speak about, you know, I've been diagnosed with the illness. I know nobody must know about it. I counseled a lady once, and she constantly had to ask her husband permission. And the day we actually had a conjoint interview, he said, but my wife can continue with all the normal duties as much as possible. She still needs to take the children to school, even though she was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. You know, she had to uphold appearances. The society shouldn't know that she's been diagnosed. And he refused to use the word cancer. And sadly, she has passed on, and she's left behind, you know, her youngest little one was 3 years old. But she had to continue caring for him until, you know, she couldn't anymore. So yes, it's quite sad, but it's very much a silent issue amongst a lot of cultures. And this is why we often refer to our support groups as wellness groups, you know, to take away that stigma and make it open to everybody.
But I had the pleasure of joining you at one of those wellness groups at Gatesville. Something very interesting happened there. So one lady, and I forget her name, she, after a long absence, she had come back to the meeting, and she made a comment there that as much as she has a great support at home with the family and the friends, it's not the same as the wellness group. Because these are people that can relate. And you can sort of speak openly and freely because we've all gone through this sort of thing. And there was like no judgment or stigma attached to it. How do we break this barrier in terms of, and I know you alluded to it where you said that, you know, own it, don't feed the stigma. But how do you get past the Afrikaner male that is not supposed to show he's a weakling? So hell no, ek gaan nie a support group uitsoek. Or the African family that's got to wait for permission from Sangoma to go. I remember one guy that I used to manage at a previous company. Father, please come and speak to my mom. She was just diagnosed with breast cancer, and she refuses treatment because the Sangoma said no. How do we get past this? And that's just open.
Yeah, from my viewpoint, I normally invite family members just to come sit in and listen, you know, to the flow of the support group and decide whether they could benefit from it. And that particular lady, as you remember, she mentioned, you know, when she was invited initially, she said, no, this is not for me, you know, and she kept on having that attitude until she eventually, upon persuasion of a friend, decided to come. And now, you know, she absolutely lives on each and every month attending that support group. So, yeah.
Yeah, it is very difficult. And just thinking of this one lady in our support group, a warden, and in actual fact she's now doing health talks and education and getting to the males, you You know, and that was so fantastic for me, because without her even knowing that she's breaking cultural boundaries, you know, and that the males can see, look, here's somebody who is still working, because they would have actually put her off from work permanently. And that she went through it, and it's just another condition that I'm suffering of.
I think it is a personal thing. I think everybody's personalities are different. Some people's personalities are stronger than others. And you get a person like myself who will stand up and say no. I don't care who you are, your title, your description, whoever you are. My no is my no. And this is what I believe. And I can support my argument. Then this is where I stand. But you do get people who don't have that. And for them, I would say, speak to your friend who is the type of person who will speak up, and let them speak for you.
For you, yeah. I think that's important in terms of finding the right support. And what I mean is that support that's not going to tell you what it is you need to do, but allow you to be and support what you need.
Yeah, walk the talk. Walk the talk.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of religious churches, masjids, congregations are really proactive, in encouraging cancer speakers or, those that have been on the journey to come actually and talk about it and actually do a walk in aid of, a specific illness to raise awareness. And I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, it nearly looks as if cancer is now taking the place of HIV. HIV was the topic, and now people have gone through that journey, and right now, where can we hop onto now? So it's cancer.
Thank you, ladies. We just need to take a short break, pay some bills. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back to The Silence Speaks Volumes, where we're picking up our conversation on the cultural biases attached to having a chronic condition. So, ladies, we started speaking about this, and something interesting came up in the break that we had there, and that is a unique situation we find ourselves with in South Africa. So picture the uneducated colored person going to a state hospital treated by a white Afrikaans doctor. How do you question that person? Because there's this history of them dictating to us how we should be.
I think for me, it was never really an issue. Like I mentioned before, I know who I am, I know my body's limitations. So if a doctor's going to tell me we're going to do that, I'm going to ask you why.
Why?
Because that why has side effects to it. And will that side effects work for me? And what will the results be once that, or the intended result of whatever action we're going to take? So I always ask the questions. And yes, I have experienced sometimes the doctor or the physician or the male in power, like you put it, feel uncomfortable with you asking the questions. But I think if you walk the journey with the same doctor long enough, they start to learn that you're not actually picking on them or trying to undermine their authority as a physician or a doctor or a specialist in their field, but actually looking at your own interests and trying to relate to them what your body's limitations is.
But some patients actually do mention the fact that, very often they don't understand, especially if it's a foreign doctor. First and foremost, the accent is different, so they can't decipher what he's saying. And secondly, they're so overwhelmed by what he's saying that, nothing registers. And it actually, forces them then to ask someone else, or ask, at another session to a nursing sister or even a social worker, could you please find out what is actually wrong with me?
Yeah, after 25 years into democracy, we still need much education within our communities, because it has a great impact, because if you have gone through the apartheid system, many people still feel that they don't have the authority or even the courage, even the courage to ask somebody, and that we need to educate them that it's your body, as Sherise said, it's your body and you have the right. But it's a great problem, because and also being now in the counselling kind of field, that they will ask you that and you were not with them to the doctor, so you don't know what the doctor has said. But now that they construe it in a completely, or understood it in a completely different way, you know, and for example, this man is going to have a tracheostomy, as cancer of the throat, and he doesn't know that he won't be able to speak, you know, and being ignorant in all of that. So as you said, yes, and you have to educate them and read up about it, and then also go to support groups or get somebody to actually walk with you and go with you to the doctor, you know.
I'd like to throw in a little bit of a spanner in that, in what you just said. Now I'm agreeing 100% with what you're saying, but now I'm trying to put myself in the doctor's shoes. So you have this medical professional, physician, who deals with terminal illnesses all day, every day, and his patients are dying around him because of the condition, not malpractice. Right? How do they protect themselves? I mean, at some point, we all just become a folder, and you get treated as such, because I hear quite a lot, and both from government and private sectors, that the doctor was cold. I felt my doctor was cold initially, and he eventually said to me that, you know what, there is no way of sugarcoating this. The fact is you have cancer. I am confident that we caught it early enough. But one of the first things that went to my mind when I heard it was, the sequence was, this doesn't look good, it looks like cancer, either way you're going to have a bag. I stopped listening after cancer. For me, that was the thing. That was what I knew, and that was as much as I said that phenomenon was out there, but my death warrant is being signed. I signed my own death warrant too. I'm dying. That's where I was. So they also at some point have to protect themselves. And then we throw in the dynamic of our history in terms of, there's someone who studied 8 years, and it doesn't necessarily have to go the white or race card. At his education levels, you respect someone that's in a position higher than you.
Can I just say at this point that UCT has made a concerted effort over the past few years to actually get the cancer survivors or warriors as such to come and speak to the second year medical students and actually explain how that news was carried over to them by the doctor. And, you know, many of them were actually in total shock, you know, when they heard, you know, that the story as told by the survivor. So yes, there is a definite, campaign, you know, to get the doctors to be more empathetic towards the patient.
I think now also, I mean, we've opened up a can here in the sense of, and this can go on and on and on, where there's that cultural biases or cultural challenges that we faced of education levels, of the race card, and not making it a racist issue, but it's a reality that we have this. How important is the education now? It's becoming, for me, it's becoming evident that there's a big need here on both sides of the fence.
Absolutely. I don't, on certain levels, I agree with you completely, but I think education is not always that vital of a issue, because when I was young, obviously I was in school, I wasn't educated, didn't have a degree or qualification, whatever, yet I still asked that questions because I wanted to know. For me, it was about me and what's going to happen to me. So on that level, I respected not only myself, but I expected the doctor in him telling me this is what he thinks. But I'm going to tell him what I think for myself. So I think education plays a big role, yes. Because now that I'm educated, I think my questions are different. But I think from that level, as a person with a disability or the sickness or the condition, if you take education out of the equation, at the root of it, we all want to know what's going to happen to us. And at the end of the day, we need to know how to deal with it and what the consequences are and what our plan of action is. And I think that is where the level of respect between the physician and the patient comes in.
So perhaps we shouldn't say education in the mind, because some people will think it is academic education, that we rather call it kind of awareness or ignorance. And in cultures, there are many ignorances. Let's not say education. And I mean, how does a doctor tell you you have cancer? You know, if we really think about it, how will he be able to tell you it is cancer? Thinking about myself, the doctor sat on the bed, knowing now who he's speaking to, and taking my hand and saying, "My dear, there's something wrong with you." And I said, "Just come out with it." And he said, "It's cancer." And then I laughed. That was my reaction. You know, it was an anxious laugh. And but I knew what he was talking about. But now, if he, like in your case, it was you have cancer, you thought something else, and you saw the death thing. So let's call it awareness. Because, you know, and the empathy from the doctor side, how he's going to tell you that
so
you have cancer.
we have that sort of awareness. Now we come back to our communities, which include our families. And it's, for me, it's an ecosystem of the different components of it, where the one can impact the other, can impact the other.
Can I just say on that point, you know, we find even today as cancer counsellors going out there to do promotional talks and raising awareness, that you still find the youth, they don't think it could ever affect them. They think cancer only affects older people.
Yeah, doesn't discriminate.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yes, there's a definite need to make people aware.
So how do we do this? We've got about 4 minutes left on the show. How do we do this? What is the messages we convey to the people watching?
I would say one of the things that we can get more people involved is with the shave-a-thons that cancer has once a year. Also, during the months where cancer is very much has these various programs running, reach out to more schools and to the youth and get them involved in giving back to the community, and in that way create awareness.
And those who have a condition actually also spread by word of mouth or shows like this, and getting involved within the community.
I think my view on it is that action speaks louder than words. So instead of trying to force a message down someone's throat, do you live your life to the best of your ability. And therefore your actions will cause a ripple effect, and that's how the bias or the stereotype, the wall, be broken down.
And some very valid points and food for thought and ideas for programs further down the line. But I tend to agree that there's a great need for an education, and not the academic type, as you pointed out. And I think it goes down to the patient as well, as you're saying. You have the right to say, what does that mean? You have the right to ask, how's that going to impact me? You have the right to say, now hold on, before you're going to cut on me, I'd like to know more here, and how is this going to affect my life? And like I've said previously on the show, I personally, I never had realized the impact of what was meant by you going to have a bag. The Friday before the surgery, which was scheduled for the Monday, I met my stoma nurse for the first time. She showed me what a bag looks like. I still didn't know what it meant, because it's still the cancer thing sitting there. And she made a dot with a Koki pen on my side and put a little clear plaster over it and said, don't take that off. That's where your stoma is going to be. And I woke up the Monday after the surgery, and I looked down, and there's this huge, when I say huge, I mean huge, and I'm not being dramatic here, clear bag filled with mess. And I was like, is this my life? And it was me more focused on the cancer and not asking the right questions. And I think we are running out of time here, and we need to wrap up. I so wish we had so much more time. But a final parting message for our viewers out there in terms of reclaiming who you are. Pushing aside the cultural biases, as difficult as it is, it's things that we are born into, how we are raised, the belief systems that we have, that we're now finding we have to challenge. Jean?
Yeah, I think that we should actually inform ourselves and talk to our bodies, saying, this is me, and I have the right to ask questions, I have the right on second opinions, and what is my body telling me? And then also to become aware and not actually live in isolation and just me and my family, but that we reach out and actually make people aware of all these things around us.
Yeah, I actually had a patient recently who has been diagnosed with cancer, but has been tested every week because they still cannot find out where else the cancer has metastasized to. And they've actually given her an appointment for September, and she said, I can't wait till that time because I am in so much pain. I need an appointment ASAP, you know. And she was saying, I demand an appointment. And I think, you know, that the patient knows their rights and actually know that there is help out there and, you know, channel them in the right direction.
I think I'm going to echo what Jean said, that you know who you are and what your limitations are. Not only your physical limitations, but your mental and emotional limitations as well. And once you listen to who you are, you can actually know how to deal with any situation that's out there, every cultural-wise. And once you know who you are, you can also, in a way, handle other people as well, because then they know how to handle you. So always come back to who you are and yourself.
Thank you so much for joining us, ladies. It was a pleasure having you on the show. To the viewers out there, echoing what my guests have said, I'm reminded of a question I asked my doctor, and this was around my question to him when given the opportunity to run in the Chicago Marathon. Doc, am I ready to do this? And his words to me were, Faisal, I studied medicine and I know how the body works, but you know your body better than I know your body. Go for your runs. If it hurts, stop. That's the only advice that I can give you. And I think the message in there for me, and it's something that I've always tried to remember, despite all the people telling me, how can you go running? You can't be doing this. Don't lift that heavy thing. I've learned to listen to my body. I know my body better than anybody else. No one out there can say it. And I own that. And I love that. And it makes my life a lot easier by allowing me to ask the question, so what's the impact here? You want to prescribe that drug? Why? So my message out there to you is ask the questions. You have that right. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you next week.